The only person capable of calming the millionaire baby turned out to be the one no one expected, the new housekeeper. A woman quietly hired to do laundry and cleaning on the first floor, with no relation to childcare. Little Kaio, only 4 months old, hadn't slept for more than 3 nights. He cried with such desperation that no nanny could calm him, refused his mother's embraces, and forced his father, Augusto Montero, one of the state's richest entrepreneurs, to miss meetings and spend nights wandering the mansion's corridors in bewilderment. 2 private nurses had already been there, a doula recommended by celebrities, and even a private pediatrician flown in from Curitiba. But none of them could calm the child for longer than 3 minutes. And then, by chance, while Nadia was cleaning the stairs in the private area, she heard crying and slowly approached, without saying a word, just observing from a distance. The housekeeper, Helenice, exhausted, was trying to rock the baby while Augusto cried, "For God's sake, someone take this boy out of this state of agony. I've tried everything." Helenice looked at the young employee and, without hope, said, "Wanna try? We're desperate." Without a word, Nadia wiped her hands on her apron, approached the cradle, took the child in her arms, and just held him tightly, supporting his head on her shoulder. Silence fell in less than 30 seconds. The crying stopped as if by magic. The baby closed his eyes, and the millionaire, seeing this, widened his eyes as if witnessing a miracle. "What did you do? How is this possible?" he asked. Nadia simply replied, "I didn't do anything, sir. I just heard what he needed." And again, she began gently rocking the baby, humming an old melody almost forgotten by time. A detail no one immediately noticed, but which Augusto felt with a tremor, was that this song was the very one his mother used to sing when he was a child, a song without words that, it was said, she composed herself. "Where did you learn this song?" he asked with a trembling voice. Nadia hesitated. "I don't know. Since childhood, I've sung to calm babies in the orphanages where I grew up." Augusto, perplexed, began to look at this woman more closely. She was dark-skinned, with dark eyes, around 30 years old, and no one in the house knew exactly where she came from. She had been hired by a cleaning company only 2 days ago, and now she held the family heir as if their blood ran in the same veins. That night, Marina, Augusto's wife, refused to hold their son, saying she was emotionally exhausted. Nadia stayed by the cradle until 4 a.m., holding the boy with one arm and reading a book with the other. The next day, the crying resumed as soon as she went to lunch. Upon returning, she saw that Kaio's skin was red and his eyes were swollen. Augusto saw this and shouted, "Someone bring Nadia immediately, and no one touch him until she returns." Silence fell over the mansion. The head nanny quit. Marina accused her husband of giving too much power to a servant, while little Kaio, in the arms of a woman who shouldn't have been there, smiled. Something inside Augusto broke. A feeling that everything was going wrong gnawed at him. He ordered an investigation into the girl's background, and the answer was stranger than he expected. There were no valid employment documents for Nadia, no contract, no timesheet. The agency that supposedly sent her had ceased operations several months ago. Augusto summoned her for a conversation. "Can you tell me who brought you here?" Nadia simply replied, "I came because I knew I would be useful. That's all." Marina fell into hysterics and called a lawyer. She wanted to fire Nadia immediately, but the child cried every time she was taken away. In desperation, Augusto did the unimaginable. He gave temporary custody of the child to Nadia. "Only until he stabilizes. I don't want my son to go crazy." Marina left the house, called her father, an influential politician, who demanded that Augusto immediately reverse his decision. But the entrepreneur was overwhelmed, and something inside him had changed. On the 4th day, searching for Nadia, Augusto found her sitting on the library floor, Kaio asleep in her arms, with an old photo album open beside her. This album was locked. "Where did you get it?" he asked. "It was under the floor in Mrs. Marina's room. Perhaps the boards shifted." He approached, saw a photograph. An old photo from 1995 showed his mother with a newborn and a young woman nearby. "Who is this girl?" "My mother," Nadia replied. "And this baby? That's me." Augusto was stunned. His mother, who had died more than 20 years ago, had spent the last months of her life visiting a girls' orphanage outside the capital. Now he remembered. She used to say that this girl with a gentle voice deserves a future. The voice was the same as in the song. "You are the daughter of the woman my mother helped. I am the daughter of the woman your mother promised to adopt, but she died before she could." Augusto felt the ground give way beneath him. He couldn't say anything. Nadia continued. "She left letters, notes, and taught me the song. I never forgot." Augusto sank to the floor, powerless. His son had instinctively bonded with the only woman in the house who carried fragments of the only person who had given him security in childhood. It was too many coincidences. It was fate. And just when he thought he had seen everything, he heard a shout at the entrance of the house. "Someone call the police! She kidnapped my grandson!" It was Marina's father's voice, accompanied by 2 armed guards. Augusto jumped up, his heart in his throat, looked at Nadia, and saw that she showed no fear. She held Caio tightly, as if she knew this moment would come. Augusto ran to the door, but opening it, he saw the guards pointing their weapons towards the room, and Marina's father saying, "This woman will not leave here with this child. Either you kick her out, or I will." The sound of the threat still echoed in the room when Augusto forcefully slammed the front door shut and looked at his father-in-law with a gaze no one had ever seen there before. "You will not touch her, nor my son." His father-in-law, surprised, tried to remain calm. "This woman invaded your house, pretended to be an employee, and is now using this child to stay here. This is kidnapping, Augusto. If you don't do anything, I'll call the police myself." Nadia remained sitting on the floor, Caio asleep in her arms, as if the surrounding chaos didn't concern her. She didn't utter a word. Augusto hesitated for a second, then replied, "Call, and let's see who gets arrested when the guards show the recording of her entry with a pass issued by one of your people. Because the agency that sent her was registered to a straw man connected to your office." His father-in-law's eyes widened. "Are you accusing me of planting people in your own house?" "I'm saying someone tried to sabotage my house, and you showed up too quickly when you found out she was with my son. Too quickly for a man who hasn't visited his grandson in weeks." Silence instantly fell. Marina appeared on the upper landing, listening to everything. "Dad, is that true?" Her father-in-law looked away. "Of course not. This man is out of his mind. He's letting a woman with no past manipulate him." But Marina didn't answer. She stared at Nadia, then at Caio, then at Augusto, and for the first time, she seemed to wonder why her son was so attached to this woman. She slowly descended the stairs, barefoot on the cold marble floor, sat on the sofa, her hands trembling. "I was a terrible mother. In recent days, I couldn't bear the crying, couldn't handle the pressure. I hid." Augusto sat beside her. "We weren't ready for this, but Caio chose who he wants to be with, and it's not a coincidence." Nadia stood up, holding the sleeping baby in her arms. "I can leave if you want, but the boy will feel it. He knows who I am, even without understanding it." Marina looked at the child and saw a calm, peaceful face, nothing like the desperation of recent days. "You're the daughter of that woman my mother-in-law visited in the orphanage, aren't you?" Nadia nodded. "That woman said she would come back someday, but never did. I realized she had died, but when I found out she had a family, I decided to look." Marina took a deep breath. "And now what? What do you want?" "Nothing. I just wanted to know who she left behind. And when I saw this baby and felt him crying, I realized he needed the same song that once saved me." Augusto stood up. "Nadia, you're not going anywhere. This boy trusts you, and so do I. And if necessary, I'll put you on staff right now with full rights, with a history and protection." His father-in-law sneered. "Are you crazy? You're going to give your house to a woman who appeared out of nowhere? Give power to someone no one knows?" Augusto stepped closer. "Perhaps that's why. Because no one knew her, because we always trusted the family name too much, and presence too little. At that moment, Kaio began to wake up in Nadia's arms, slowly opened his eyes, looked at his father, then at his mother, and snuggled even closer to the woman who held him. It seemed he wanted to say with his body what he couldn't with words. "He doesn't want her to leave," Marina said, surprised. His father-in-law shook his head, turned away, and stormed out of the house, slamming the door. Augusto turned to the housekeeper. "Enter her name into the system. Maximum access level. From today, she's not just an employee, but an official nanny." And turning to Nadia, he added, "You'll take care of him. But I want to know who you are. What happened all these years? What brought you here? I need to understand." Nadia looked him in the eyes. "There are things even I don't understand, Sir Augusto. But it all started with a promise your mother made. If you truly want to know, I'll tell you, but not now." "Why?" "Because there's someone outside who won't stop until they drive me out of here." Augusto frowned. "Are you talking about my father-in-law?" "No, I'm talking about the one who actually put my name in that agency. He was just a face. The order came from someone higher up. If I stay here, I'll have to involve you in this too." Marina stood up. "Are you saying our house was infiltrated by someone who wants our son?" "Not just your son," Nadia replied. "They want the structure. They want what this family represents. If you let me stay, you must be prepared for what comes next." Augusto looked at his wife, then at the baby, then at the woman who held the boy as if he were her flesh and blood. "We've already passed the point of no return. Tell me everything now." Nadia, looking out the window with attentive eyes, replied firmly. She slowly moved away from the window, still holding the child in her arms, while Augusto and Marina watched, not knowing what to expect. The silence was as thick as the air in the room. "Do you want to know the truth? Then listen carefully, because after I tell you, there will be no turning back."
She sat on the sofa, settled Kaio on her lap, and began to speak with unsettling calmness.
"My mother died when I was 6 years old. They said it was an accident, but I still don't believe it. She worked as a cleaner in an elite hospital, and a week before her death, she started saying she had learned about strange things, illegal donations, baby swapping, and names she had seen in newspapers. When she fell down the stairs and they said it was suicide, I already knew influential people were involved. I ended up in an orphanage far from everything, and there I met your mother, Sir Augusto. Mrs. Amelia came without warning, always with food, books, and sometimes just music. She treated me like a daughter, said she would adopt me, but then she disappeared. A few months later, I found out she had died. Since then, I was moved from orphanage to orphanage until I turned 18, and they kicked me out without warning. I started living with acquaintances, cleaning without official documents, because even my registration number wasn't authentic. I was a shadow, Sir Augusto, a person no one would notice if I died. 5 months ago, I was called to a meeting in an abandoned house in the city center. A man handed me an envelope with money and told me I had to accept a job at the mansion, doing laundry and following any orders. He said my card had been deleted from the system and a new identity was ready. When I asked who gave the order, he replied, "People who want to regain power, and you will help them without even knowing it." I initially refused and left, but the next day, they sent me a photo of the burned orphanage where I grew up. Then I received a video with threats to my friend. That's when I understood. Either I agree, or other innocents will suffer. When I came here, I thought it was just another cold house. But when I saw your son in the cradle, looking at me with frightened eyes and trembling for no apparent reason, I realized he was just like I was. Voiceless, defenseless, and then I broke the plan. I decided to protect him instead of following orders. That's why they hate me now, because I disobeyed those who wanted to use this house to show their power. Augusto approached the door, locked it, and returned with a serious expression. "Are you saying there's a group that uses external employees to infiltrate company mansions, high society homes?" "Yes, and not always for theft, sometimes just to observe, control, then blackmail." Marina sat down, bewildered. Was my father part of this? I don't know, but his name appears in the documents that were in the envelope. What did they give me? Nadia took a plastic sheet from her pocket and handed it to Augusto. It was a donation agreement in the name of an unknown company, linking her father-in-law to offshore transfers and the names of politicians under investigation. These documents were hidden in the orphanage's secret compartment. I hid them when I realized they were looking for me, which is why I came to this house. I wanted to return this to the son of the woman who promised me a home. Augusto ran a hand over his face. I thought my main problem was a child who couldn't sleep, and now you're telling me my house has been infiltrated. My father-in-law is involved in money laundering, and the only trustworthy person is a woman no one here knew until yesterday, just like that. Outside, 2 black cars stopped at the gates. Marina looked at the camera and said, "It's not the police, it's private security." Augusto looked at Nadia. "They know you told?" "They know. If something happens to you, they'll go after the child, because what's at stake is not just money, but the Montero family name. This child's future as the heir to what they lost. They want him elsewhere, under a different influence, and if they can't get that, they'll try to destroy everything that remains." Augusto looked at his wife. Marina silently picked up her phone and started recording. Name, dates, everything. "Speak, Nadia. You'll tell now, and I'll save it on my family's international servers. If they come for you, I'll have something to counter them with." Nadia nodded. It all started in 1998 with a group called the Blue Brotherhood. But before she could continue, a noise came from the back of the house. One of the kitchen windows shattered. Augusto stood up, went to the safe, took out a weapon inherited from his father and said, "Now it's not about the child, but about what they tried to hide behind the crying that no one wanted to hear." The kitchen glass was still cracking on the floor when Augusto closed all the curtains in the house, locked the doors, and asked Nadia to go up with the child to the most protected room, paneled with solid wood, located in the center of the mansion with no outward-facing windows. Marina went up with them, holding a laptop with the recently made recordings. Augusto opened the safe again, but this time he took not only his father's weapon, he took out a sealed envelope he had never opened. It had been stored there since his mother's death. On the envelope, handwritten, it said, "For you, when you become a father." His heart beat faster. He broke the seal. Inside were 3 folded sheets. It was a letter written by his mother 2 months before her death. The text stated that in the past she had tried to adopt a girl from Sister Lucia's orphanage, but was stopped by external pressure and threats that made her fear endangering her family. It also said that she received warnings that if she insisted on giving the child the Montero surname, she would be publicly disgraced. His mother abandoned the adoption, but continued to secretly visit the girl, bringing clothes, books, and the only song she composed herself to maintain a connection. The song was the same one Nadia sang. Augusto felt his throat tighten. The child's name, mentioned in the letter, was exactly the same as the woman who was now caring for his son. The letter ended with the words, "If you ever meet this girl as an adult, and she is by your side, do not cast her out. She is the only bridge between who I was and who you can still become." Augusto stared at the sheet as if it were burning in his hands. A scream was heard from upstairs. "Someone in the side garden," Marina said, looking through the internal cameras. Augusto ran upstairs, saw 3 hooded men circling the back of the mansion with flashlights and some object resembling a crowbar. "Call the police, now!" he shouted. But Marina no longer had a phone signal. The internet had been disconnected several minutes ago. "They cut everything off," Nadia said. "This is a coordinated attack." Augusto returned to the office, manually activated the alarm button connected to the alarm system, but nothing happened. The system didn't work. It had been disabled from the inside. "Someone's in the house!" Marina exclaimed, her eyes wide. The only employee who hadn't appeared since last night was the night cook, Silvina. Augusto took his weapon and went down to the utility room. The door was ajar, the dishes were washed, but the cook was gone. The internal intercom emitted a faint noise, as if someone was listening but not answering. He approached, pressed the button, and said, If you're still here, know that the child is protected, and if you touch any of us, you'll pay with your life." There was no answer, only static noise. Suddenly, a hatch in the side cabinet opened by itself. One of the old employees had said that this compartment was connected to the mansion's abandoned well, leading to the garden outside. Augusto entered with a flashlight attached to his weapon. Walking down the narrow stone stairs, he heard quick footsteps and saw a shadow running through the tunnel. He fired upwards to scare it. The shadow stopped. A female voice replied, "You won't want to kill me, Augusto, because I know who ordered the hunt for you. It was Silvina the cook, or whoever was pretending to be her." "Who sent you?" Augusto asked, firing. "The same one who destroyed your mother for trying to adopt a child outside the norm. The same one who financed companies with dirty money to keep the Montero family under control." "Are you talking about Marina's father-in-law?" "I'm talking about someone above him, who created the Blue Brotherhood." Augusto lowered his weapon. "This organization is real, and it's much more real than you think. And this child, your son, is the key to something bigger, because his blood carries the fusion of two lineages that were never supposed to cross. And if you allow this woman to take care of him, the entire plan will collapse." Augusto climbed back up the stairs. Silvina did not follow him. When he reached the upper floor, he saw Nadia with the child in her arms and Marina typing on another laptop. "I'm trying to restore the internet through an external modem. If it works, I can send the recording of Silvina's confession to our holding company's external servers." She confirmed that someone is using the child for a higher purpose, that Caio is more than an heir. "He's a dangerous fusion," Nadia said, "because his blood carries an empire, and mine a memory. Together, we are everything they wanted to keep separate." Augusto, for the first time in weeks, took the child in his arms and felt a tremor throughout his body. "He's not just my son. He's all that's left of what they tried to erase." A crash echoed from the utility room. The back gates were opening. Marina shouted, "They're breaking in! There's no more time!" Augusto looked at Nadia and asked, "Can you get out of here with him safely?" She nodded. "But I need you to trust me 100%. Marina cried, "Do you think we don't trust you? Take him, but promise you'll bring my son back." Nadia held Caio tighter. "I won't just bring him back. I'll destroy those who tried to erase his history." As Nadia crossed the side of the mansion, with Caio strapped to her body with a folded sheet, the back gates were already open, and two hooded men were crossing the kitchen towards the central room where Marina was trying to trick the surveillance system by showing recordings made several hours ago. Augusto stood by the stairs with his weapon ready, prepared to shoot, but his thoughts were divided between defending the house and ensuring Nadia's escape with the child. The escape route had been planned in less than 5 minutes: exit through the laundry room, climb over the outer fence using an auxiliary ladder, and cross the back garden, where the old gardener, Ocilio, a 60-year-old man with partial deafness, had left the gate unlocked at Augusto's instruction. But, turning the corner, Nadia felt her foot sink into the gravel and heard a metallic click from below. She stopped. One of the men on a walkie-talkie, hidden in the bushes, shouted, "Go! Get her now!" She threw herself to the ground, shielding the child with her body. From underground, a protective net with proximity sensors emerged. It was a pre-prepared trap. Nadia got tangled in the metal net, but before they could grab her, Ocilio appeared with a machete and shouted, "Get out of my garden, you scoundrel!" The men hesitated, surprised by the old man's reaction. He swung the machete in the air, hit the net, and cut one of the main ropes. Nadia freed herself and ran with the child in her arms, while Augusto shouted from the window, "Go straight to the old administration bunker, code 1427. She knew where it was. On the mansion's first-floor plan, there was an underground door with a biometric lock that only Augusto used, but he had added Nadia's fingerprint to the system several hours earlier. Placing her hand on the reader, the door opened, and she descended 16 concrete steps into a chamber protected by 2 reinforced doors. Inside were boxes of documents, 3 sealed laptops, suitcases with old hard drives, and folders with the Montero family crest. Nadia placed Caio on a mattress and began transferring the recordings with Sylvinia's video confession to the servers of the Santa Elias Foundation, a nonprofit organization linked to former employees of the Montero Empire who had been dismissed after internal investigations. Marina had secretly provided access to these contacts, knowing that this was the only way to ensure the information left the house. Meanwhile, Augusto held back the attackers with warning shots, forcing them to retreat. One of them shouted, "You're doing this because of a woman who doesn't belong here." Augusto replied, "She has more rights in this house than you do in life." The invaders retreated, but left an activated device in the corner of the room, a signal jammer, preventing any data transmission. In the underground bunker, Nadia saw the connection disappear. They cut everything off. She tried to restore it through a backup router. Nothing. She looked at the peacefully sleeping baby and said, "You will grow up knowing the truth, even if I have to burn everything for it." She returned to the panel, activated the secure offline mode, and began physically copying the files to 2 external hard drives. This took 8 minutes. Much could change in that time. Outside, the police finally arrived, alerted by Ocilio, who had escaped through the main entrance and asked for help at a nearby store. The armed men tried to escape through the backyard, but were intercepted. One of them, while being detained, shouted, "You have no idea who is behind this." And the police officer replied, "Maybe not, but now they have a name, a face, and a case." Augusto came out through the front door with his hands raised, surrendered his weapon, and showed the documents found in his mother's letter. Marina appeared right behind him with a laptop in her hands. There's video, audio, payment lists, everything is saved. In the bunker, Nadia was finishing copying the files when she noticed a blinking red light in the corner of the room. A hidden motion sensor had activated. "Someone else down here?" she whispered, took Caio in her arms and pressed herself against the wall. She heard breathing nearby, a hoarse male voice. "We warned you not to meddle with what's above you." She replied without hesitation, "I'm not playing with the impossible." "You underestimated the only one he listens to." And before he could react, she pressed the bunker's internal alarm button, initiating an emergency lockdown. The steel door descended, trapping the attacker outside and sealing her inside with the child and the files. Marina watched everything via camera. "She's safe. They can't get in anymore." Augusto turned to the investigator. "Now you need to listen quickly to what she has to say." In the mansion's underground bunker, locked with Caio and 2 hard drives containing information capable of bringing down a network of influential businessmen and politicians, Nadia was alert to the slightest sound. Her body stood between the child and the reinforced steel door. The internal security camera flickered intermittently, but continued recording. She spoke softly, recording everything in real time to the emergency server of the Santa Elias NGO, activated by a satellite chip hidden in the hem of her blouse. "My name is Nadia Amelia. I am the daughter of Luana Vieira, who died in 1998 after reporting suspicious operations at Santa Dulce Hospital. I grew up in Sister Lucia's orphanage, where I met Mrs. Amelia Montero, the mother of the current owner of this house. She promised to adopt me, but died before she could. Years later, I was recruited by agents connected to an underground network of property control. I accepted the job, but upon meeting that woman's son, I realized this was my chance to change everything. The child with me is the direct heir to the Montero family, and the object of interests beyond the material. They want a name, they want a symbol, but they won't get it." Outside, Augusto personally handed documents to the investigator in charge of the operation. "Here is the evidence linking my father-in-law to a private network of property manipulation with branches in 5 states. You won't find all the evidence in the official system. It's hidden there, in my mother's safe." The investigator called for backup. Agents are on their way to scan the materials and ensure the safety of the employee and the child. But Sir Augusto, if everything is confirmed, your family's name will be on the front pages across the country. Augusto nodded. It's better to fall for the right reason than to rise on someone else's back. Marina, standing nearby, added, "If this story gets out as it should, Other families will gain the courage to tell what they too silently endured. Meanwhile, in the safe, the light came on again. The system restarted. Nadia entered the password to unlock the external protocol and activated the secure evacuation mode. The system opened a secret passage behind the old wine cellar, built decades ago, as an emergency exit in case of fire. She took Kaio, strapped the hard drives to her body with tape, and passed through the concrete hatch. The passage led through a damp, dark corridor filled with old boxes, where Augusto's mother had once hidden letters and folders with information about illegal donations and unfulfilled court decisions. Nadia took Kaio in her arms and headed towards the last grate, which Augusto had unlocked a few minutes earlier from the upper panel. When she emerged into the side garden, the investigator, 2 federal agents, and Marina with a blanket were already waiting. "We did it. Now go to the safe room with the materials." Nadia handed over the hard drives but continued to hold the child in her arms. "He'll go with me until everything is safe." The investigator didn't ask questions. "As you wish." In the armored van, federal agents began reading the contents. Encrypted folders, photos, videos, spreadsheets, and records of illegal transactions dating back to 1993. All with names, amounts, dates, and recipients. One of the investigators muttered, "This is the end of the Blue Brotherhood." Marina, now barefoot and covered in house dust, sat on the sidewalk and laughed. Perhaps this is the beginning of what